Imagine waking up to a stranger at your gate, waving forged papers, and screaming that your family's 150-year-old farm, the place where your ancestors' dreams took root, now belongs to them. That's the nightmare Samuel Carter Evans, a retired property law expert, faced on a frosty November morning. A brazen realtor named Vanessa Hartley strutted on my land with buyers in tow, acting as if my legacy was already hers to sell. But she didn't know I'd spent 40 years mastering real estate law, and I wasn't about to let her steal the Carter Evans homestead. Welcome to Daily Narrated Stories, where we bring you tales of courage and justice that will grip your heart. Let's dive into this fight for my family's history. It all began on a crisp November morning at my family's farm, the Carter Evans homestead, a sprawling 90-acre property nestled in the rolling hills of Willow County. I was sipping my coffee on the wraparound porch, the same porch where my great-great-grandfather used to sit, watching the sun paint the fields in golden hues. The farm had been in our family since 1875, surviving floods, the Great Depression, and even a corporate takeover attempt in the 1980s. 2 years ago, after 4 decades as a property law specialist in the city, I retired to manage the homestead full-time. The stillness of that morning felt sacred, a quiet moment where I could almost hear the whispers of my ancestors in the rustling leaves. I'd spent the previous day mending a fence near the northern boundary, my hands calloused, but my heart full, knowing I was preserving what my family had built. The tranquility was a balm to my soul, until it was shattered. A sleek silver SUV roared up to my iron gate, its engine cutting through the morning calm like a knife. A smaller sedan followed, kicking up dust that swirled in the crisp air. A woman in her early 40s, dressed in a sharp blazer and heels, stepped out of the SUV, her heels clicking with purpose on the gravel. A well-dressed couple emerged from the sedan, holding clipboards and scanning my land like vultures circling prey. I watched, my coffee growing cold in my hands as the woman, Vanessa Hartley, as I'd later learn, unlatched my gate without a second thought and led the couple onto my property. My chest tightened, a mix of disbelief and protective instinct surging through me. This land wasn't just dirt. It was the blood and sweat of 5 generations, and I'd be damned if I let someone waltz in and claim it. The audacity of Vanessa's presence ignited a fire in me, a primal urge to defend what was mine. I could still smell the damp earth from yesterday's fence work, the scent clinging to my flannel shirt, grounding me in the reality of my connection to this land. My great-grandfather had planted the oak tree near the gate, its gnarled branches now stretching over the driveway, a silent sentinel of our history. Every inch of this farm told a story of my great-great-grandfather's struggle through the panic of 1873, of my grandmother's victory garden during World War II, of my father's battle to keep the farm solvent during the 1980s farm crisis. Vanessa's intrusion was an affront to all of that, a violation that cut deeper than I could have imagined. My heart pounded as I heard her voice carry on the wind, sharp and confident. This land is a gold mine for development. The farmhouse is outdated, but with the water rights and 90 acres, it's a steal for any investor. Imagine luxury condos stretching across this field, a golf course over there by the creek. Her words were a desecration, reducing my family's legacy to a commodity for her profit. I couldn't believe the audacity. My hands shook as I set my mug down, the ceramic clinking against the wooden railing. I jumped into my old pickup truck, the engine rumbling to life with a familiar growl, and sped down the dirt driveway, dust trailing behind me like a storm. The scent of earth and diesel filled the cab as I gripped the wheel, my mind racing with a mix of anger and disbelief. As I drove, memories flooded back. Summer spent baling hay with my father, the sun beating down as we worked in rhythm, the satisfaction of a job well done. Winters when my mother would bundle me up to check the livestock, her laughter echoing across the snowy fields. The stories my grandfather told of surviving the Dust Bowl, his voice steady as he described the resilience that kept this farm alive. Each memory was a thread in the tapestry of the Carter Evans homestead, and Vanessa's presence threatened to unravel it all. I slammed on the brakes, kicking up a cloud of dust that made the trio jump, their clipboards nearly slipping from their hands. "You're trespassing on private property," I shouted, stepping out of the truck, my boots crunching on the gravel with a satisfying thud. Vanessa's eyes narrowed for a split second, a flash of irritation crossing her perfectly made-up face, before she plastered on a polished smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Carter Evans, I presume? I'm Vanessa Hartley with Prestige Realty Group. I'm showing this property to the Thompsons. We tried reaching you, but your number wasn't working." Her voice was smooth as honey, but there was a sharpness in her gaze that sent a chill down my spine, like a predator sizing up its prey. I crossed my arms, standing firm, the cold November air biting at my cheeks. "This farm isn't for sale, and I haven't listed it with any realty group. Leave now." The Thompsons shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between us like they'd stumbled into a battlefield they hadn't signed up for. Vanessa's smile tightened, her lips pressing into a thin line as she reached in her leather bag and pulled out a folder, her manicured nails glinting in the sunlight like tiny daggers. "There's been a misunderstanding," she said, her tone dripping with false sympathy, as if she were speaking to a confused child. "I have the deed right here. This property was sold in a private transaction last month by a Thomas Carter Evans. Your relative, I believe." My stomach dropped, a cold dread settling in my gut. I knew every name in my family tree, every cousin, every distant aunt. There was no Thomas Carter Evans. "That's impossible," I said, my voice steady despite the fury bubbling inside me. "There's no such person in my family, and this farm has been in our direct line since 1875. "You're lying." Vanessa's mask slipped for a moment, a flicker of irritation crossing her face, her left eyebrow twitching slightly. "Mr. Carter Evans, I understand this is hard, but the documentation is clear. Perhaps you weren't informed of the sale. As the new owner, I'm giving you 30 days to vacate." The Thompsons looked uneasy, stepping back as if they wanted to disappear into the dust still settling around us. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling with rage, and dialed Sheriff Daniel Lawson. "Sheriff Lawson, it's Samuel Carter Evans. I've got trespassers at my farm claiming they own it. I need you here." My voice was calm, but inside, I was a storm of emotions. Anger, fear, and a fierce determination to protect what was mine. As I waited for Daniel, I studied Vanessa and her clients. The Thompsons seemed out of place, their polished city attire, tweed jackets and designer scarves, clashing with the rugged beauty of my farm. They whispered to each other, casting nervous glances my way, their discomfort palpable. Vanessa, however, stood her ground, her posture rigid, her folder clutched like a shield. I noticed the way she kept glancing at her phone, as if expecting a message that would solidify her claim. Her overconfidence was her weakness, a crack in her armor that I intended to exploit. I'd seen her type before in my legal career, smooth-talking opportunists who thought they could bully their way to victory. But this was my land, my legacy, and I wasn't about to let her win. Sheriff Daniel Lawson's patrol car rolled up within 20 minutes, his lights flashing against the autumn leaves, casting a red and blue glow over the golden fields. Daniel and I went way back. We've been friends since our high school days, fishing at Willow Creek and sneaking into the county fair without tickets. Our paths diverged when I went to law school and he joined the force, but we'd always stayed close, sharing a beer at the annual Harvest Festival. He stepped out, his face stern as he took in the scene, his boots leaving faint prints in the dirt. "Morning, Samuel. What's going on?" I explained everything, my voice tight with frustration, while Vanessa tapped her foot impatiently, occasionally glancing at her watch with a dramatic sigh that made my skin crawl. When I finished, Vanessa handed Daniel her folder with a smug smile, her posture radiating confidence. "Sheriff, I have all the proper documentation. The property was legally purchased from Thomas Carter Evans. Mr. Carter Evans here is simply mistaken." Daniel flipped through the papers, his brow furrowing deeper with each page, his fingers tracing the notary stamp as if he could feel the lie beneath it. "Ms. Hartley, these documents look official, but there's a problem. The notary stamp doesn't match Willow County's format. His voice was calm but firm, the kind of tone that left no room for argument. Vanessa's confidence faltered, her smile slipping as she blinked rapidly. That's impossible. Our legal team handled everything. Maybe your county updated its format. Daniel shook his head, handing the folder back with a look that could cut glass. No, ma'am. We haven't. I suggest you and Mr. Carter Evans resolve this through legal channels. For now, county records show Samuel as the owner, so I'll need you and your clients to leave. The Thompsons were already retreating to their car, eager to escape the drama. Their footsteps hurried as they whispered to each other, casting guilty glances my way. Vanessa gathered her things, her jaw tight, and locked eyes with me, her gaze cold and unyielding. This isn't over, Mr. Carter Evans. I'll be back with my lawyer, and you'll be looking for a new place to live soon. She stormed off to her SUV, her heels clicking furiously on the gravel, each step echoing like a declaration of war. As she drove away, a knot formed in my gut, heavy and unyielding. This wasn't a simple scam. It was a calculated attack with forged documents. Something bigger was at play, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me, like the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. After Daniel left, promising to keep an eye out for Vanessa, I headed to the old barn where I kept the farm's records. The barn smelled of aged wood and hay, a comforting scent that reminded me of my childhood summers stacking bales with my father, the sun warm on our backs as we worked side by side. I spent hours poring over deeds, tax statements, and utility bills, the dim light of a single bulb casting shadows on the weathered pages. My fingers brushed against the brittle paper, each document a piece of my family's history. Then I found it, a recent tax notice with my name misspelled as Samuel C. Carter Evans instead of Samuel Carter Evans. It was a small error, but as a former lawyer, I knew it was a red flag. Someone was tampering with my records to create confusion, a tactic I'd seen in shady real estate deals during my career. My heart sank as I realized the depth of the deception I was up against. The discovery sent my mind racing. I recalled cases from my legal career where similar tactics were used to undermine property claims, small errors in public records that snowballed into legal nightmares. The misspelling wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate attempt to erode my ownership, to make it easier for someone like Vanessa to slip through the cracks with her forged documents. I called the county assessor's office, but it was after hours, the automated message droning on as I paced the barn, the wooden floor creaking beneath my boots. First thing tomorrow, I'd visit Henry Marshall at the local notary office. Henry had been notarizing documents in Willow County for decades and would know if anything suspicious had been filed about my property. As I locked the barn, the sky darkened with storm clouds, mirroring the unease settling in my chest. The farm had always been a place of solace, where I could escape the chaos of the city and find peace in the rhythm of the seasons. But now, it felt like a fortress under siege, each creak of the old barn door a reminder of the threat looming outside. I glanced at the farmhouse, its silhouette stark against the ominous clouds, and felt a pang of vulnerability. This place had weathered countless storms, literal and figurative, but none like this. That night, the farm felt different, its usual warmth replaced by a chilling unease. The usual chorus of crickets was absent, replaced by an eerie silence that made the hair on my neck stand up. I double-checked the locks on every door and window, a habit I hadn't needed since moving back, my hands lingering on the cold metal as I tested each bolt. The farm had always been my sanctuary, but Vanessa's intrusion had shattered that peace, leaving me on edge, my senses heightened to every sound. I lay in bed, the creak of the old house keeping me awake, my mind replaying the confrontation over and over. What if I hadn't been here? What if she brought a bulldozer instead of buyers? The thought made my stomach churn. I barely slept, jolting awake at every sound. A branch tapping the window, the wind rattling the shutters, each noise amplified in the darkness. My grandfather's old clock ticked relentlessly in the hallway, each second a reminder of the history I was fighting for. By dawn, I was up, brewing coffee as the sunrise bathed the fields in fiery oranges and pinks, the colors so vivid they seemed to burn with defiance. The beauty of the land hit me harder than ever, a bittersweet ache in my chest. This wasn't just dirt and grass. It was my family's story, etched into every fence post, every barn plank. I found an old photo of my great-grandfather in the kitchen drawer, his stern face staring back at me, as if urging me to fight. His eyes seemed to hold a challenge, a silent question. Will you let this go, Samuel? I drove into town to see Henry Marshall at his notary office, a quaint space in the historic district that smelled of old books and ink, the kind of place where time seemed to stand still. Henry, a wiry man in his 60s with a shock of white hair, greeted me warmly, his handshake firm but his smile fading as I explained the situation. "Samuel, someone's been sniffing around your property records for months," he said, his voice grave, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted his glasses. A woman came in, claiming to be a researcher studying historic farms. She requested copies of your deeds and water rights documents, saying it was for an academic project on Willow County's agricultural history. Henry showed me his visitor log, flipping through the pages with a frown. There was Vanessa Hartley, signing in as a historical researcher, her signature sharp and deliberate like everything else about her. We reviewed my documents, and at first, everything seemed fine, the papers neatly organized in Henry's meticulous files. But then we found it, a deed transfer dated 4 months ago from a Thomas Carter Evans to a company called Pinnacle Holdings LLC. The document looked legitimate, the print crisp and official, but Henry pointed out flaws in the notary stamp and signature, his finger tracing the inconsistencies with a practiced eye. "This wasn't notarized here, Samuel, and I've never heard of this Thomas person. Is he a relative?" His voice was steady, but I could hear the concern beneath it. "No," I said firmly, my jaw tight. "It's a complete fabrication." Even more suspicious was a second transfer from Pinnacle Holdings to Vanessa Hartley personally, just 2 weeks later for a price far below market value. A clear sign of a shady deal. The numbers didn't add up. A property like mine, with its water rights, should have fetched millions, not the paltry sum listed. As we examined the papers, I noticed something else. The address for Pinnacle Holdings was familiar, a nagging memory tugging at the edges of my mind. It nagged at me, but I couldn't place it, the frustration gnawing at me like a splinter I couldn't pull out. Henry urged me to hire a lawyer, his voice low and urgent. "This is a sophisticated fraud scheme, Samuel. You need someone who knows real estate law inside out. You can't fight this alone." He recommended Clara Bennett, a brilliant attorney who'd helped another family in the county fight a similar scam last year. Her name spoken with a reverence that gave me hope. As I left Henry's office, the weight of the folder in my hands felt heavier than it should, each page a piece of the puzzle I needed to solve. I spotted Vanessa's silver SUV parked across the street, its chrome trim glinting in the morning sun. She was inside, snapping photos of my farm with a telephoto lens, her posture relaxed, as if she had all the time in the world. When she saw me, she rolled down her window and smirked, her lipstick a stark red against her pale skin. "Enjoying your last month at the farm, Mr. Carter Evans? Eviction starts in 30 days. Her voice was laced with venom, each word a dagger aimed at my resolve. I activated my phone's voice recorder and walked over, my steps deliberate, my heart pounding in my chest. "Ms. Hartley, falsifying property documents is a felony in this state," I said, keeping my tone even, though my hands itched to confront her more directly. She laughed, a cold, dismissive sound that echoed in the quiet street, her eyes glinting with malice. "Prove it. Thomas Carter Evans signed everything legally. Not my fault if your family didn't keep you in the loop." Her words were a taunt, designed to provoke, but I refused to take the bait. I tried a different tack, hoping to catch her off guard. "Why this farm? There are plenty of properties for sale in Willow County. Why are you so fixated on mine?" That's when she slipped up, her overconfidence betraying her. Leaning forward, her voice low and conspiratorial, she said, "Between us, this region's about to explode. That luxury eco-resort project everyone's been whispering about, it's happening. Your farm, with its water rights, is the crown jewel. Whoever owns it when the news breaks will make millions. My pulse quickened, a rush of adrenaline coursing through me. The resort project had been a rumor for years. A pipe dream floated at town hall meetings, but no official word had come out. Her knowledge screamed insider information, which could be illegal for a realtor to act on, a fact I'd learned in my years of legal work. The pieces were starting to come together, but the picture they formed was uglier than I'd imagined. "Sounds like you're trading on non-public information, Ms. Hartley," I said, my voice steady, though my mind was racing. "That's not just unethical, it could be criminal." Her smirk faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face, but she recovered quickly, her mask snapping back into place. "Good luck proving that, old man. Start packing." As she sped off, her SUV kicking up gravel in her wake, I realized this wasn't just about forged deeds. It was about a massive development deal and millions of dollars, a scheme that went far deeper than one greedy realtor. I needed Clara Bennett, fast, before Vanessa could make her next move. Clara's office was in a charming Victorian house on Main Street, its walls lined with awards and certificates, a testament to her expertise. The air smelled of lavender and polished wood, a stark contrast to the chaos of my morning. She was a no-nonsense woman in her late 40s, with sharp green eyes that missed nothing, her presence commanding yet reassuring. After hearing my story and reviewing the documents, she leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled in thought. "This is a classic land grab, but with layers of sophistication. They invented a fake relative, use a shell company to muddy the trail, and are trying to force you out before you can fight back." Her voice was calm, but there was a fire in her eyes, a determination that matched my own. She tapped the Pinnacle Holdings paperwork, her pen leaving a faint mark on the page. "We need to find out who's behind this company. I doubt Vanessa is acting alone." A framed article on her wall caught my eye, a case where she'd helped an elderly couple recover their farm from a similar fraud scheme. The headline bold and triumphant. "That case had the same hallmarks," Clara said, noticing my gaze. "Shell companies, fake documents, intimidation. But you caught this early, Samuel. That gives us an edge." Her words were a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't fighting this battle alone. Clara outlined our strategy. File emergency motions to block any eviction attempts and investigate the fraudulent documents' origins. "We'll also notify the county recorder's office to prevent further tampering," she added, scribbling notes in a leather planner, her handwriting precise and deliberate. As she spoke, I remembered why the Pinnacle Holdings address seemed familiar. It was the same building as Prestige Realty Group, just a different suite. "That's a lead," Clara said, writing it down, her eyes lighting up with the thrill of the chase. "It suggests Vanessa's employer might be involved, which could blow this wide open." She advised me to document everything, photos, videos, anything to prove continuous ownership. "And Samuel," she added as I left, her voice softening with concern, "be careful. People willing to commit fraud like this don't play nice when cornered." Her warning echoed in my mind as I drove home, the road winding through fields that stretched endlessly under a gray sky. I noticed a silver SUV tailing me for several miles, its presence a dark shadow in my rearview mirror. When I slowed down, it sped past, revealing a man in a dark suit, his face obscured by sunglasses. I'd later learn he was Marcus Sterling, Vanessa's boss at Prestige Realty Group, a man whose name would soon become synonymous with deceit. That evening, I walked the farm's boundaries as Clara suggested, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, the ground soft beneath my boots. The cottonwood trees along the creek swayed in the breeze, their leaves rustling like whispers of the past, each sound a reminder of the generations who'd walked this land before me. I found an old rusted horseshoe near the eastern pasture, a relic from my grandfather's time, and clutched it tightly, the metal cold against my palm. I remembered the summer's weeds spent mending fences together, his calloused hands guiding mine as he taught me the value of hard work. His voice echoed in my mind. "This land is our roots, Samuel. Never let it go." Each stone marker I photographed felt like a testament to my family's resilience, a silent vow to keep fighting. The act of walking the land was meditative, grounding me in the reality of what I was fighting for. I paused by the creek, where my father had taught me to fish, his patience endless as I tangled my line in the reeds. The water rights tied to this creek were the heart of the scam. Rights secured by my great-grandfather during a time when water was more precious than gold. Those rights had allowed our farm to thrive through droughts that devastated others, a legacy that now made us a target. I snapped photos of the irrigation ditches, the old pump house, the hand-dug well, each a piece of evidence that this land was mine, undeniably. As I walked, I noticed signs of intrusion. Fresh tire tracks near the northern fence, a broken branch where someone had pushed through the underbrush. My stomach twisted at the thought of strangers creeping onto my land, plotting to steal it while I slept. I made a mental note to install security cameras, a modern necessity that felt out of place among the farm's timeless rhythms. The horseshoe in my pocket became a talisman, a reminder of my grandfather's strength, his refusal to bow to adversity. I wouldn't either. My great-grandfather had weathered the panic of 1893 to keep this farm, his determination etched into the very soil I stood on. My grandfather had installed irrigation in the 1950s, securing water rights that were now apparently so valuable, his foresight a gift that had kept the farm alive through drought after drought. My father had introduced organic crops in the 1980s, saving us during the farm crisis, his innovation a bridge between tradition and survival. Now, it was my turn to defend it against modern predators armed with fake documents and corporate greed. The weight of that responsibility settled heavily on my shoulders, but it also fueled my determination, a fire that burned brighter with each step I took. The next morning, Clara called with alarming news, her voice tense over the phone. Pinnacle Holdings is owned by Marcus Sterling, CEO of Prestige Realty Group, Vanessa's boss. This goes higher than we thought. Marcus has a history of aggressive tactics, but this is criminal territory. As we spoke, another call came in, the phone buzzing insistently in my hand. It was Emma Grayson, a reporter with the Willow County Gazette, her voice urgent. Mr. Carter Evans, Sheriff Lawson mentioned you've had issues with Prestige Realty Group. I've been investigating shady land deals in the county. Can we talk? After clearing it with Clara, I met Emma at a bustling diner in town, the air thick with the smell of fried bacon and coffee, the clatter of dishes a comforting backdrop to our tense conversation. Emma, a determined journalist in her late 30s, had been tracking suspicious property transactions for months, her notebook filled with meticulous notes and highlighted maps. There's a pattern, she said, spreading out her notes on the sticky table, her pen tapping nervously against the paper. Several family farms with valuable water rights have been sold under questionable circumstances in the last year, all funneled through shell companies before landing with developers. She lowered her voice, her eyes darting around the diner to ensure no one was listening. It's all about water. That eco-resort needs massive water rights, and they've been denied permits to drill new wells. Farms like yours, with historical water rights, are their only shot. This made sense, the pieces clicking into place like a lock turning. My grandfather had secured exceptional water rights in the 1940s, rights that were grandfathered into modern regulations, making them incredibly valuable in our arid region. I could still picture him, a wiry man in overalls, standing by the creek with a surveyor, his face set with determination as he fought for a future. Emma showed me a map marked with the properties in question. The Harper Farm, the old Grayson Place, the Mitchell Homestead, all sold within months, all with odd transaction patterns that screamed fraud. Together, they formed a patchwork that, with my farm, would create a perfect block for the resort, with unmatched water access. Your farm is the keystone, Emma said, circling my property in red ink, her voice low and intense. Without it, the project can't move forward. They need your water rights to make this work, and they're willing to do anything to get them. Clara arranged a meeting with George Hadley, the chairman of Willow County Bank, who'd known my family for decades, his office a sanctuary of polished wood and leather-bound ledgers. George, a silver-haired man in his late 70s, confirmed my ownership records were flawless in the bank's files, his hands steady as he flipped through the documents. Samuel, your farm is at the heart of a $250 million resort development. Those water rights alone are worth a fortune, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the truth. As we left the bank, Clara's phone rang, her assistant's voice crackling through the line. We need to get to your farm now. My assistant just drove by and saw people with surveying equipment. We raced back to find Vanessa leading a team of surveyors across my front pasture, their orange vests stark against the green grass, their equipment glinting in the sunlight. She waved a document with a triumphant grin, her posture radiating victory. Court order for preliminary survey work, Mr. Carter Evans. The property transition is in motion. The surveyors looked uneasy as Clara and I approached, their boots shuffling in the dirt, their faces etched with discomfort. Clara examined the document and shook her head, her expression grim. This isn't valid. The judicial stamp is wrong, and it's not signed by a local judge. The survey crew leader, a grizzled man in his 60s with a weathered face, frowned, his hands tightening around his clipboard. Ms. Hartley, you said everything was in order. Vanessa's smile wavered, a crack in her facade. It is just a technicality Mr. Carter Evans' lawyer is exploiting. Sheriff Lawson arrived minutes after my call and confirmed the document was fake, lacking proper stamps and signatures, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. As he ordered the crew to leave, a black Mercedes pulled up, its tinted windows reflecting the midday sun like a dark omen. A man in a tailored suit stepped out, his polished shoes gleaming, his presence a stark contrast to the dusty surroundings. Marcus Sterling, he introduced himself, his smile as cold as his eyes, a predator in a businessman's disguise. CEO of Prestige Realty Group and principal of Pinnacle Holdings. I believe we can resolve this amicably, Mr. Carter Evans. I'd installed hidden cameras after Vanessa's first visit, and I made sure we were in range of one now, the red light blinking discreetly from the barn. There's nothing to resolve, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. You're trespassing with fraudulent documents. Marcus exuded confidence, his silver-streaked hair catching the light, his suit pristine despite the dust swirling around us. He stood in stark contrast to the surveyors, who were packing up under Sheriff Lawson's watchful eye, their movements hurried and uncertain. Vanessa moved to his side, her earlier bravado replaced by deference, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. I was just explaining that the paperwork is filed, she said, her voice trembling slightly, betraying her nerves. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, his gaze never leaving me, his touch a silent command to stay in line. Samuel, may I call you Samuel? He said, his tone smooth as silk, but with an edge that made my skin crawl. Business is about seizing opportunities. Your farm is worth maybe $1.5 million as farmland, but with the resort, it's $25 million. I'll offer you $3 million today to avoid any trouble. When I didn't respond, he leaned in, his voice dropping to a confidential whisper, his breath warm against the chilly air. Between us, the paperwork might have some inconsistencies, but by the time that's sorted in court, the development will be approved, zoning changed, and your legal fees will bankrupt you. Take the offer and enjoy your retirement. I stood my ground, the rusted horseshoe from my grandfather still in my pocket, its weight grounding me against Marcus' slick promises. This farm isn't for sale, Mr. Sterling. And fraud is fraud, no matter how much you pay your lawyers, I said, my voice steady, though my heart raced with the weight of the confrontation. Marcus' mask slipped, revealing a predatory glint in his eyes, a flash of something dark and dangerous. You'll regret this, old man. By the time we're done, you'll have nothing left, he hissed, his voice low and venomous, a threat that lingered in the air like smoke. Sheriff Lawson stepped closer, his hand near his holster, his presence a reassuring anchor in the storm. Is there a problem, Samuel? He asked, his voice calm but firm, his eyes locked on Marcus. Marcus' demeanor shifted back to charm, his smile returning as if nothing had happened. Not all, Sheriff. Just a business chat. He handed me a business card with a handwritten number, his handwriting sharp and precise. My offer stands for 48 hours. After that, we'll proceed with the eviction. As he and Vanessa left, Clara whispered, "We got that on camera." His admission about the paperwork could be key evidence. Sheriff Lawson looked worried, his brow furrowed. "Samuel, these people play dirty. I'll have deputies patrol your place, but stay vigilant." That night, I retrieved the footage and shared it with Clara and Emma, the grainy video playing on my laptop in the dim light of my kitchen. "He practically admitted the documents are fake," Clara said, watching the video, her eyes narrowing as Marcus' words echoed through the speakers. Emma took notes furiously, her pen scratching against the paper. "This matches other cases I've tracked. Same tactics, same players. We devised a plan. Clara would handle the legal front, Emma would dig into other fraudulent deals, and I'd secure my farm against further intrusions, my mind racing with the steps we needed to take. But things escalated faster than we expected, the tension building like a storm ready to break. At 2 a.m., my security system blared, jolting me awake, the shrill alarm cutting through the silence of the night. My heart raced as I grabbed my phone, the screen showing a shadowy figure in my home office, his movements deliberate and calculated. He moved with precision, rifling through drawers, photographing documents, his gloves ensuring no fingerprints, his flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. I gripped my grandfather's old rifle, my palms sweaty, as I watched him linger near a locked cabinet where I kept copies of the deeds. My breath caught. Would he find the hidden safe behind the bookshelf? He didn't, but the violation left me shaken, my hands trembling as I clutched the rifle, the cold metal a stark contrast to the heat of my fear. I stayed in my bedroom, door locked, the rifle across my lap, as I called Sheriff Lawson, my voice low and urgent. The intruder slipped away before deputies arrived, vanishing into the fields, the tall grass swallowing him like a ghost. But my cameras caught his face, a sharp-jawed man with a scar above his eyebrow, his eyes cold and calculating in the grainy footage. He'd left my office in disarray, papers scattered, drawers ajar, all focused on property and water rights documents. Thankfully, the originals were in a safe deposit box at George's bank, a precaution I'd taken after Vanessa's first visit. The violation left a bitter taste in my mouth, a reminder of how far these people were willing to go. The next day, Clara uncovered Vanessa's past, her voice grim over the phone. She was disbarred as a lawyer 4 years ago for document fraud in a real estate case. Marcus hired her knowing her history. She's the perfect tool for his schemes. The revelation sent a chill down my spine, the pieces of the puzzle snapping into place. Meanwhile, Marcus launched a media campaign against me, painting me as a selfish old farmer blocking progress. "People like Mr. Carter Evans are why our county struggles," he told the Gazette, alongside a mock-up of the resort. A glittering complex of hotels, spas, and golf courses promising jobs and revenue. The image a stark contrast to the reality of his deceit. The article sparked division, the community fracturing under the weight of Marcus lies. Letters to the editor poured in. Some praised the resort's potential, dreaming of jobs and economic growth, while others defended property rights, their words a rallying cry for justice. Emma countered with an exposé on Prestige Realty Group's shady deals, highlighting the pattern of targeting farms with water rights, her words sharp and unflinching. The community split, with longtime residents backing me and newcomers supporting Marcus' vision, their voices clashing in town hall meetings and local forums. Vanessa ramped up her harassment, bringing buyers to my property line daily, pointing out features with a saccharine smile, her presence a constant thorn in my side. "Public road, Mr. Carter Evans. I'm not trespassing," she'd say when I confronted her, her voice dripping with mockery. Then came a bombshell that nearly broke me. An official notice claiming the county was foreclosing on my farm for unpaid taxes. I knew it was nonsense. I'd pay my taxes on time, with receipts to prove it, the folders in my safe deposit box a testament to my diligence. Clara and I visited the county tax office, where a frazzled clerk, peering over her glasses, confirmed the discrepancy, her fingers flying across her keyboard. Our system shows you're 4 years behind, but your receipts say otherwise. Someone manually altered the records. This was deliberate, she said, her voice trembling with the weight of the discovery. Clara requested an audit trail of the changes, her voice firm, and we turned to George Hadley again, his office a beacon of stability in the chaos. His bank records proved my payments were up to date, forcing the county to back off, their apology hollow against the backdrop of the tampering. But the tampering confirmed we were up against a well-oiled machine, a network of deceit that stretched far beyond Vanessa. Clara suggested finding other victims to build a case for state or federal involvement, her voice steady but urgent. Local law enforcement can't handle this level of white-collar crime alone, she said. We need to show a pattern to get the FBI's attention. While sorting through old files in the barn, the air thick with the scent of dust and memories, I found a leather-bound journal from my grandfather, dated 1942. Its pages, yellowed and brittle, detailed how he'd secured our water rights during the Dust Bowl, his handwriting a steady anchor in the storm. He'd worked with state officials, conducting geological surveys to map the underground aquifer beneath our farm, his foresight a lifeline during the drought years. Those rights, grandfathered into modern laws, were why our farm survived when others failed, a legacy of resilience that now made us a target. The journal included letters from state officials confirming the right's legality, a legal goldmine that could turn the tide in our favor. Clara was ecstatic when I showed her the journal, her eyes lighting up with hope. These historical rights are untouchable under current regulations. No wonder they're so desperate for your farm, she said, her voice trembling with excitement. Emma's research revealed the resort had been denied water permits 3 times, making farms like mine their only option. The truth a stark reminder of the stakes we were facing. We now understood the full scope. This wasn't just fraud, it was a desperate bid to save a failing $250 million project. We planned to dig deeper into Marcus' past dealings, with Emma tapping her contacts in neighboring counties, her determination a mirror to my own. She uncovered that Marcus had pulled similar scams twice before, creating fake ownership, pressuring owners to sell, then flipping the properties for massive profits. His tactics, a playbook of deceit. Clara filed complaints with the state real estate board and the attorney general, her motions swift and precise. While I fortified my farm with more cameras and alarms, each addition a shield against the growing threat. But the next confrontation came swiftly, the tension building like a storm ready to break. One morning, Vanessa arrived with a construction crew, their trucks loaded with equipment for a preliminary site assessment based on their supposed ownership, their presence a violation that set my blood boiling. Vanessa directed the crew with authority, pointing out areas on a map spread across her SUV's hood, her voice sharp and commanding. The foreman, a stocky man in a hard hat, looked uneasy as she handed him papers, his hands tightening around the documents. "Mr. Carter Evans," she called out as I approached, "your presence here is obstructing progress." The crew shifted nervously, sensing the tension, their faces etched with uncertainty. I called Sheriff Lawson, who arrived and confirmed the paperwork was fake, his voice a steady anchor in the chaos. The crew left, some apologizing privately, their words a small comfort in the storm. "We didn't know this was disputed," one said. "I'd hate for someone to do this to my family's land." Vanessa paced my property line, making furious calls, her heels sinking into the soft earth, until Marcus' black Mercedes pulled up, its engine a low growl that sent a chill down my spine. He stepped out, his suit pristine, and introduced himself again with that same icy smile, his presence a dark cloud over the sunny morning. I ensured we were in camera range, the red light blinking discreetly from the barn. "There's nothing to resolve," I said. "You're trespassing with fraudulent documents." Marcus' confidence didn't waver, his silver-streaked hair catching the light, his suit a stark contrast to the dusty surroundings. "Samuel, your farm is worth $25 million with the resort. I'll offer $3 million today. Take it, or the courts will bleed you dry," he said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. I refused, and his mask slipped, revealing a cold fury that made my stomach twist. "You'll regret this," he hissed. After they left, I shared the footage with Clara and Emma, the video a damning piece of evidence. "Another admission," Clara said. "This is gold." Emma added, "It ties to the other cases. They've been doing this across the county." We planned our counterattack, but that night, another break-in occurred, the scar-faced man returning to try the barn, his movements swift and silent until my alarm sent him fleeing into the night. We needed a break, a way to turn the tide. Henry Marshall agreed to help, pretending to find new documents about my farm that Vanessa might want, his voice steady as he agreed to the plan. He met her wearing a wire from Sheriff Lawson's office, the device hidden beneath his jacket. "This stays between us," Vanessa said, offering Henry $6,000 to backdate papers, her voice low and conspiratorial. The Thomas Carter Evans documents were creatively produced. "We need something stronger." She detailed Marcus' role in the shell company, unaware she was being recorded, her words a noose tightening around her neck. Sheriff Lawson and his deputies burst in, arresting her for bribery and fraud, the handcuffs clicking around her wrists with a satisfying snap. Her shock was palpable, her polished facade crumbling as she realized the depth of her mistake. Marcus distanced himself, claiming Vanessa acted alone, his press statement a flimsy shield. Prestige Realty Group had no knowledge of Ms. Hartley's actions, it read, but we knew better. A break came when James Whitaker, Marcus' former CFO, contacted me, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and resolve. "I was fired after refusing to go along with his schemes," James said. "I have documents proving Marcus created Pinnacle Holdings and orchestrated the fraud." With James' evidence, I set a trap, my heart pounding with the weight of the plan. I invited Marcus to the farm, pretending to be ready to negotiate, the lie bitter on my tongue. He arrived, exuding arrogance, and settled in my living room armchair, his posture relaxed, as if he'd already won. "I'm glad you've come to your senses, Samuel," he said, his voice smooth, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "The $5 million offer stands, but only if we close this week." I played the part, feigning exhaustion, my shoulders slumped, my voice weary. "I'm too old for this fight, Marcus. But can we discuss a better price, given the water rights?" Marcus' eyes gleamed, a predator sensing victory. $5.5 million, final offer. I pressed further, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "How did you acquire the other farms? The Harper Place, the Mitchell homestead?" Believing he'd won, Marcus boasted, his voice expansive, his ego his downfall. "Same strategy, different methods. Some sell under pressure, others for cash. The shell company keeps it clean for developers." Thomas Carter Evans was Vanessa's idea. Fake relatives, backdated papers. She went too far with the break-ins, though. Too messy. As he spoke, Sheriff Lawson and federal agents listened from my kitchen, recording everything, their presence a silent promise of justice. They stepped in, badges out, their voices firm. "Marcus Sterling, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, extortion, and racketeering," Lawson said, his tone formal, his eyes hard. Marcus' face drained of color, his confidence shattered, his empire crumbling around him. The fallout was swift and unforgiving. Vanessa Hartley was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud, bribery, and conspiracy, her polished facade shattered behind bars. Marcus Sterling faced graver charges, including racketeering, with James' documents revealing a history of scams that stretched across counties. The district attorney estimated he'd serve 15 years and owe millions in restitution to his victims. Prestige Realty Group collapsed under the weight of the scandal, with investigations uncovering a dozen other fraudulent deals that had preyed on unsuspecting families. The eco-resort project moved forward, but with a new company that negotiated fairly, respecting owners who chose to keep their land, a stark contrast to Marcus' ruthless tactics. I stayed on my farm, the Carter Evans homestead, but I didn't stop there. I worked with my neighbors to create a sustainable water management plan, allowing responsible development while preserving our agricultural heritage. Emma Grayson, the tenacious reporter who'd stood by me, won a prestigious journalism award for her series, Uncovering the Land Fraud Empire. Her words a beacon of truth for our community. Sheriff Lawson was re-elected in a landslide, his role in bringing down the fraud ring earning him the trust of Willow County. Clara Bennett, my fierce attorney, became the go-to lawyer for property rights cases in the region, her name synonymous with justice. The Carter Evans homestead stood proud after 150 years, a testament to my family's grit, love, and unwavering dedication. The resort, when it was finally built, became a model of sustainability, weaving existing farms into its design, a celebration of Willow County's roots rather than an erasure of them. I sold water rights, but not a single acre of land, to the new developers, using the funds to establish a conservation easement on my farm's most pristine areas. Those rolling hills, where my great-grandfather once toiled, would be protected forever, a promise to future generations that this land would remain a sanctuary. Reflecting on this journey, I realized it wasn't just about saving my farm. It was about courage, standing for what's right, and honoring the sacrifices of those who came before me. My great-grandfather's stern gaze in that old photo, the rusted horseshoe from my grandfather, the creak of the farmhouse under a stormy sky. They all reminded me of the resilience that runs through my family's veins. This fight taught me that no matter the odds, truth and determination can triumph. A lesson I'll carry with me always. What would you fight for no matter the odds? Share in the comments how you've protected something precious to you. It could be a family heirloom, a dream, or a legacy. Your story might inspire someone else to keep going, to stand firm in the face of adversity. So, there you have it. Vanessa is serving 5 years. Marcus faces 15, and my farm stands stronger than ever, ready for the next generation to write its story. At Daily Narrated Stories, we're committed to bringing you tales of courage and justice that light a fire in your heart, stories that remind you of the power of standing up for what's right. But we need your help to keep sharing these life-changing narratives. Subscribe now to Daily Narrated Stories. Don't miss your chance to join our community before we hit 1,000 subscribers. Time's ticking, and you won't want to miss what's next. Comment, share, and let's make sure truth always wins.